Hi there, welcome to Algorand Wyckoff technical analysis session. So previously we shared Algorand has two possible scenarios under the Wyckoff method, and over the past few days, when the price tried to break above the downward trend resistance, currently the price has been pushed back down to below the trend line. So let's take a look at both the weekly and daily charts and see where Algorand is heading and whether it's starting to consolidate for a bigger move that's about to come. Here, this is the weekly chart, and a lot of text, I understand. But the key is whether it's the orange scenario or the green scenario. The orange scenario basically assumes that we're still in a big accumulation cycle. We had the sign of strength back in mid-July, and the price is now coming back down for a test. Not as deep as what we had during late June and late March, where we had the selling climax and the second test. Currently, it's still staying at a level higher than those. Basically, is above the yellow key level of 20 cents. But the tricky thing is this that I mentioned: current weak candlestick is being suppressed under or below this trend line, extended from these wicks that we had as early as mid-July. So if it breaks outside of this, then obviously it can challenge the green key level of 24 cents, as well as more importantly, the ceiling of this downward channel box, this blue box over here. Because when that happens, that means it's going to break the trend, and eventually there's a chance for it to go up and potentially show us a new distribution cycle, meaning a new peak. The tricky part, or the confusing part for Algorand, is this green scenario. Why I have come up with this green scenario and not just talk about the orange? Because that's only one possibility, the orange. If we just focus on that and lose sight of what's happening earlier in time, then we may be caught in a scenario where we are hoping for something that's not going to happen. Reason being, looking at this mini distribution cycle between November, sometime near late October, early November 2023, exactly 3 years ago, 2 years ago, all the way till the very peak in March 11, 2024. That period, you see where the peak was, right? The upthrust, the wick of the upthrust just passed the blue key level of 32 cents, and then it immediately got shot down 2 key levels back to somewhere between the green key level and the light blue key level. Fast forward to where we were back in July. Same thing, the wick passed the blue key level 32 cents and then got pushed back to somewhere near the 29 cents light blue key level. So that's why I came up with a question or a hypothesis that we might have seen the buying climax of this round. Willing or unwilling to believe, that's another possibility. So instead of still inside an accumulation cycle, we might have already exited the accumulation cycle back in late June, and the price shot up to show us the peak, and now we are currently going through these kind of second test stage, last point of supply stage, and maybe even coming back to a lower level to start another accumulation cycle. So that's why I'm saying there may be a green scenario over there. If these like orange and blue sets, scenario 1, isn't happening, we know why, because it is actually showing us, or we have actually gone through another scenario that deviates from the original projection. So bear in mind, I know it's kind of complicated to see two different scenarios seemingly playing out, but having seen what happened back in 2023, it just brought me to thought, maybe that's the real case for Algorand. So I just switch on the Bollinger Band Kono squeeze to quickly check whether there's a squeeze going on. Currently there's still, well, we're getting very close. Let me switch off the drawing so it's easier for you to see. The top purple line is already inside the orange. The lower purple line is getting in probably 2 to 3 days. If the price continues to trade sideways like what we had for an entire week, then this squeeze will happen. When the squeeze happen, like what we had over those periods, there will be swings. So after a squeeze, usually we'll see these kind of swings, and then eventually it's like an attenuation where the magnitude slowly reduce. That's what we're seeing right over here before another squeeze comes in. So in terms of Wyckoff in the daily chart, this definitely has happened already. This maybe, because I put in a lot of question marks asking, are those maybes? Like, because the selling climax back in June was way lower, 1 key level lower than where we are now. So this period, is it really the selling climax, or is it not? Is it still within this distribution cycle where the AR is actually the last point of supply? As of this moment, I'm more inclined to think the current tags are correct, and looking at this trend line that we have drawn, what happened on Monday and Tuesday warrant that we adjust this by a little. So we extend from the buying climax here all the way to through the LPSYs, and eventually touching the automatic rally we're seeing just now. Well, the thing is, if I drag it back to the last point of supplies, it's still, the price is still trading below this resistance line. So I just want to adjust a little so it covers the automatic reaction. So that's where the current sentiment or support towards Algorand is around. So when it touches this level, it's being shot down. Currently, it's over the past 2 days, it's still below this yellow intermediate resistance line that's formed by all these sign of weaknesses back in August, September, 2 times, and you can clearly see over the past few days this level is really pushing the price back to a lower level. But then it's not too deep. It is finding support at around 21 cents 80. So while I said there's chance for the price to come down for a second test because of this descending trend line, it's not too pessimistic, I would say. Even though I'm keeping the 70% chance coming down, because it seems like it is really trending towards this side. So in terms of daily, the volume themselves is pretty much on average. There's not much crazy moves going on. So like I said, Algorand, under a tricky situation, there is a chance that we're heading towards a new accumulation cycle, and maybe that's what it is for this current like altcoin season. Some people would like to say that, but for Algorand it seems like it may have gone through its peak already. There's a pretty likely possibility that it has happened. So let's observe, because the breakout time, like we shared before, is near the end of this month. So it's pointing towards October 27th, this downward trend line, crossing where it crosses the yellow key level. So we're just 1 to 2 weeks away for that breakout to happen. So either the price has to shoot up outside of this downward trend, which may be likely because the flat stage over here seems to provide sufficient support for the price to move that way, at least horizontally, edging towards the top or the ceiling of this downward channel box. But then that's where the key challenge is when that happens. If we get closer to December, if the price really moves towards this direction, like the line I've drawn, I might as well keep this line over here. So next time when we come back, we'll see whether it really breaks outside of this downward trend line. If it doesn't, if it really got heavily suppressed by this trend line and break below the yellow T level, which it found support for the previous 2 weeks, so hopefully it doesn't happen that way, but in case if it does, there's still a trend line over here that provides support. By then, around mid-November, we'll have another time point where a breakout decision point will happen. So that's why I put the test over here, because it may come down below the yellow just to set a test low and then bounce up from the dash line over here. So let's hope for the best for Algorand. We don't hope that is the green scenario, but like I said, there's a chance that it is. So let's hope it's the orange, and then we get to see a bigger peak like what we had back in November 2024. So trade safe, remember to set your stop loss.